You know I'm going to say it a lot. So, hey everybody, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic, and welcome back. We are continuing our NFL recap of the 2024 NFL season, and we're in the AFC South, and, well, it's not his fault, but it is his fault for making a very awkward introduction as the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, it's going to happen a lot, deal with it, but we're talking about them Jaguars of Jacksonville. So, Duval. Okay, with all seriousness, the Jacksonville Jaguar was a team that I think with Trevor Lawrence being signed to a big contract and the way the Jacksonville Jaguar was set up, I think there was talk that the Jaguars were going to make the next step, or taking the next step, and maybe making the next step make more sense. That makes no sense because that's not a word. But the Jacksonville Jaguars, I usually had them at had like 11 win season. I thought they would compete with the Texans because last year they kind of like faltered away. I felt they're going to compete with the Texans, maybe find a way to get into the playoffs or even, threaten the Texans for it. But a worst case scenario, a 10-loss season, 7-10, mainly because I feel like there might have been some game against Tennessee, Colts, and Texans that, those three losses in their own division would potentially derail them from a potential 10-win season, and that would be the case. Boy, was I completely wrong, and I think a lot of it has to do with injuries. The injury bug came in like a hurricane and made the Jaguar team that I thought was going to be an 11-win team to a 4-13 team. That to me is beyond embarrassing for this team that with Lawrence getting paid and the hype he was getting. I mean, put it this way, Trevor Lawrence was so highly praised, for those good, quick little history lesson, was so highly praised as one of the great quarterbacks coming out of college that a lot of people compare him to Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, from his first time into the Colts, he basically helped carry that team on his own, even though the Colts basically abused psychologically and mentally and physically abused this man to the point he retired early and made Colts fans butthurt to the point that Colts fans are still pissed off that Andrew Luck retired so early, when really you should look in the mirror and look upstairs and blame the leadership for that. And we'll talk about the Colts when we talk about the Colts, but that's just my thoughts on that point. But Lawrence was viewed as one of those quarterbacks straight out of Compton, straight out of college, that he was going to come in and do the thing. Sad thing is, the Jacksonville Jaguars suffer from a case of identity crisis, as they have no idea who they are. For those the Jaguar fans in my channel, thank you for coming on board. I remember the days of Jimmy Smith. I remember the day of Fred Taylor. I remember of Mark Brunell. So I still remember what they were. I remembered how they literally sent Dan Marino to the retirement center. I remember that. I remember how close they were to the Super Bowl, multiple instances, not just the Blake Bortles case in New England. The Jaguar was a team that we never take seriously, maybe because it's Jacksonville, maybe because it's just ugh. And that when they become serious, we go, oh, we paying attention to them. But when they start losing, we just go, anyway, I got better things to worry about than Jacksonville. So seeing all that Jacksonville nonsense, not to mention the owner has a very iconic look, too. So it's kind of like, okay, that's interesting. Let's look at that guy. Jaguars, it was just a bad season. Injury bugs there, but I kind of felt like the injuries kind of helped expose more than hid what was the problem with the Jaguars. And getting Liam Cohen, yes, he was successful with Tampa, which, by the way, like I said, by the Dave Canales, going from 1 year with Baker, then to a NFL employment of head coaching. And I'm not into the whole debate as a Buccaneer fan with old Liam Cohen, the way he betrayed the Bucs. Forget that. That's the point right now. Liam Cohen goes in as the new head coach of the Jaguars, and honestly, I can't help but feel like, you really think he's going to do the exact same thing with Tampa? Because I don't think the Jaguars have the players to do it, at least not in their first year, as well they did. Trevor Lawrence might be the only thing that's there, but even then, Baker didn't have that much expectation compared to Lawrence's expectation. So, yeah. So, good luck to Jacksonville, but let's talk about your best game. And the best game took place in Week Week 7 versus New England in London. Yes, when I was trying to make this video, I could not find a single game that I could consider your best game in the United States. That's how, wow, you guys were not good in the USA. And not really good at home. So to me, trying to find a good game for you guys to showcase that this was the best they could do, I have to go to London to find a game. And your London game was, I mean, you played the Patriots, so let's not go, let's not get the parade going. But it was not that great. It was not that great. You beat up on a weak opponent and you did what you had to do. Basically, this was, the New England and Jacksonville was literally like the most, like, I think, disrespect to our brothers and sisters over in London to say, hey, this is the match we're going to give you two teams with a 2-10 record combined. Enjoy. So, yeah, not a good showing. I mean, for those people that were there that probably enjoyed it, congratulations to you. Some people don't even know what the hell the Jacksonville Jaguars or New England Patriot is, and they still wore a jersey, not knowing that they're basically wearing a dead franchise. But yeah, and that was that. I mean, it was the best game. I mean, I think both May and Lauren showcased promise. So at least you can say, okay, young quarterback looking good, yay. But it wasn't your, but it was your best game away from your true fans in the United States. So that's your best game, and quite frankly, it's quite insulting. Now your worst game. Thank God it wasn't at home. Took place week 11 at Detroit. 52-6. I watched this game more than I probably should have. And it was bad. It was bad. Looking at it statistically, Jaguars had 170 yards of offense the entire game. Detroit, 645 yards of offense, nearly 40 minutes of clock management, 38 first downs. The score was 28-6 at half. It was a bad game. It was really bad. By the way, Jaguars were 0-6 on the road by that time, so that did not help them overall. This was just a bad game because it was clearly a game where you said to yourself, how badly are we going to lose? I know that's not the mindset of a professional athlete getting paid millions and millions of dollars should think like that, but really that should be like, we're going to get our butts whooped that we won't be able to sit down on the bus to go back to the hotel to get back home. That's how bad it was. Now, I could have found a much lesser bad game, but I feel like any NFL team in today's NFL with all the, you know, the athleticism, the scheme, the professionalism, just bigger, better, badder, stronger, 50 points given up is bad. It's bad in high school, it's bad in college. But in the NFL, when basically grown men got to pay their mortgages and feed their families, and some of them pay their different mistresses and different baby mamas, a 52-6 beatdown is a game where basically, like, you might need to file for you know, domestic abuse for what happened. This game was bad. And like I said, I could pick another bad game. There were several bad games. I had a few. But I think giving up 52 points and losing with only 2 field goals, that to me just feels like it was bad. It was bad. It was like, you know, wow, bad. It's like watching a tabby cat fighting a grizzly bear, and the grizzly bear is hopped up on heroin and cocaine and LSD, and it's just freaking out. Yeah, put that image in your head. So that to me is your worst game. Just so unprofessionally bad. But we're going to talk about your MVP. Who's your MVP? Believe it or not, the MVP is going to go to the rookie sensation. I'm not saying that hyperbole. I'm actually saying with much confidence. Brian Thomas Jr., which I feel like he like quietly was great for Jacksonville. Who was just quietly doing his thing. I mean, this is the rookie that came in with basically inconsistency at quarterback due to injuries and just bad play. And he was still the leading receiver. You know, he had 87 catches for basically 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. Not bad. Now you're thinking, okay, what was the next best? Brenton Strange, the tight end, had 40 receptions. So basically, and only 411 yards of offense, of receiving yards. So Thomas was so effective that even basically in losing fashion, he was still going to put up numbers that will make teams like, Tampa, Buffalo, Kansas City, Philadelphia be like, man, could you imagine if he was actually on a good team? And I was honestly really surprised because I didn't think how much he was going to do when I felt the Jacksonville's offense was kind of like, still have a lot of holes, even when they drafted him. And even then, I was like, I don't know. I don't know how much he's going to do because technically he was like number 2 in his own team in LSU. So who knows what he was gonna do? But he did his job. He showed out. He proved that he was worth a first-round pick for the Jaguars. The only thing I can really say is that hopefully, a second year, there's no second year slump, and you and Lauren and Liam Cohen and Duval would lead to a potential, consistent, tandem. I don't know. I feel like Jacksonville, you have a lot of holes to fill, and well, with the MVP success of your rookie, clever segue, who I think you guys will potentially get your draft pick choices? Now, the time of this recording, we're in the midway through March, so a lot of free agency has happened, so a lot of my initial predictions have probably been discredited or disproven or no longer valuable. But I'm going to commit to my guns and say, what if? So the people who I think they're going to pick, they could potentially still pick up in their draft class. I still say Mason Graham, the defensive tackle on Michigan, could still be viable. Travis Hunter, because, who knows, some players may either trade their picks. Some people got quarterbacks, and some people I just feel like, Hunter's still great, but let's go with someone a little bit more of a sure thing. And I can't help but feel like Liam Cohen is just saying, I'm going to have this athletic guy and Travis Hunter on my team. That just feels like an opportunity, and they'll deal with, of course, the reasons why not to. And then, of course, I put McMillan from Arizona. The biggest thing is that I feel like if Lawrence has 2 reliable young receivers, is going to help him out. I feel like the rushing attack for the Jaguars is fine with Etienne and Bigsby. But to me, giving him a 1-2 punch, similar to what Liam Cohen had in Tampa with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, give Lawrence 2 receivers that basically both be number 1s on his own team. That's why I'm leaning towards that. The Travis Hunter, I'm more of a defensive favorite than an offensive threat, but I do believe Liam Cohen will utilize him offensively. And Mason Graham is just disrupting the front, especially against an AFC South that, quite frankly, is not that strong. So having a defensive front to go with Walker and the superior Josh Allen, you're going to have a 3-headed monster on that defensive line wrecking nightmares on quarterback and the entire AFC. So that's who I think. Now, with everything I said about positivity, your grade, though, for the season is a failure. Your season is a failure. You failed. It was really bad. And you can blame injuries all you want, but even then, it just felt like how reliant on Lawrence. Even when Lawrence played, you guys were not winning games. So who is it? You can blame Doug Pearson all you want. Go ahead, blame that. Head coach always a good one to fall on their swords, take blame for things that more than likely was not completely their fault. But in the day, the Jacksonville Jaguars is a failure. Their season was a failure. The whole organization's a failure. The ownership's mustache is a failure. Everything was bad about the Jacksonville Jaguars. That the only reason why this team has not been disbanded and moved to like San Antonio or to a city that actually deserves a team is beyond me. But good luck, Jacksonville. You got Liam Cohen, who's coming in with, another first-time head coach. So you're kind of like, please. So we're going to see how far they're going to adapt into it. And that's basically the biggest thing with all young quarterbacks. Lawrence still fairly young, guys. Let's be real here. With another new head coach. And out of the other head coaches beforehand, Liam Cohen doesn't have head coaching experience, period. Urban Meyer was a head coach at Ohio State and Florida and other teams, so at least he was a head coach. And Doug Pearson won a Super Bowl as a head coach. So, wow, you went from 2 head coaches with very strong resumes to guy who's meaning Duval. But if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're done with them. Thank goodness. Now, the team we're going to talk about in the AFC South. Well, I'm just excited. Let's talk about the number 1 team who has the number 1 pick. So next time we'll be talking about the Tennessee Titans to see what are they going to do. And quite frankly, it's kind of easy, but boy, aren't you glad that Derrick Henry got out of town when he did? So next time we'll be talking about the Tennessee Titans and how they got the number 1 pick. They sucked besides that. So until next time, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic. Thank you so very much for watching.